Start with today's talk on Saraswati River System. I have been associated with this work for the past 12 years, and this evening I will be sharing with you some of my experiences. As soon as one hears the name Saraswati, certain thoughts cross our mind. Did Saraswati River exist at all? This is the primal thought. And then, if yes, during which period? Where was it flowing? What are the evidences of its existence? When and why did it disappear? And man has got only one thing, that is time, which God has given him. So the most important question is, what is the use of exploring more about a long lost river? Why should we pay attention to this river system? I will start with the last query that appears because that is the most significant one. The utility of research on Saraswati river system. All of us know that whatsoever we are, it is the result of the culture. And Saraswati river and Vedas are intimately connected. If we talk about culture, culture is the way people live, the way a civilization grows, and civilizations grow on river banks. So once we are studying a river, of primal importance, we are studying our own civilization, we are studying our own culture. And dating of the Saraswati river system will have a significant bearing on the age of the Rig Veda. And this will scientifically authenticate the primordial nature of the Vedic Indian civilization. Second importance. World over, we are seeing that there is a global water shortage, and about 5 million people die each year from water shortages. In our own country, aquifers are being overpumped, soil is becoming saline, groundwater level is going down fast, and this scenario exists in nearly all the states of the country. If we talk about Haryana, since we are very close to Haryana, we see that the gap is rather too large. So, what should be done? Should we allow this scenario to remain, or can we bring about a change? The problem is that we have already exploited or overexploited those resources which are at our command. So we are in the need of some source which we are yet to tap. And therein, the search for deep aquifers offers a golden alternative. Paleo channels, or the old channels where the river used to flow when it was in its prime, of the mighty Himalayan rivers in the state as well as in the entire country, hold the key to water in future. If we talk about the Indo-Gangetic alluvial plains, what we know is that these have been deposited dominantly by fluvial agencies and active deposition for about 10 million years now, and post-Pleistocene we had a wet climate, and the possibility of getting huge accumulation of fresh water in deeper aquifers is quite probable. To support this contention, the scientific studies based on oxygen isotope studies, thermoluminescence dating of windborne and riverborne sands, radiocarbon dating of lakebed deposits reveal heavy rainfall to recurrent floods during early to middle Pleistocene time in Rajasthan, where what we see as desert, it was a lush green area during early to middle Pleistocene time. And the desirable activities towards mitigating the water scarcity in this region appear to be involving a GIS-based approach, wherein the major inputs could be from geology, archaeology. The relevant data layers could be overlaid, identification of probable sites, characterization of the deep aquifers, and construction of large reservoirs for storage and distribution. Now, all this is not hypothetical. All this has a basis, and the basis is that this experiment, what I have just shared with you, this experiment is already successfully working in the Libyan desert, where they have created surface reservoirs of the order of a diameter of 2 kilometers, and the water is being treated and is being given to fields and agriculture purposes and to mitigate the thirst. Coming down to my first query that crosses our mind, if we have to know about the drainage system in the Indian context, we'll have to go back in time when India collided with Eurasia. That was the time when the underplating of the Indian plate started, the Himalayas started building up. In the Indian context, if we talk, during the Quaternary period, Antarctica got glaciated about 30,000 years back. And after the ice caps started melting, the drainage started establishing itself. And the best evidence for this we get by the dating of paleo waters. That's an activity that was done by Bhabha Atomic and Research Center people, where in Rajasthan they could get paleo waters of definite glacial affinity dating back to 26 to 28,000 years. Now, we are talking about the lost Saraswati river system, and this path shows where we are looking for this river system. Now, the question arises, why are we looking here? This satellite imagery, I'm afraid you are able to see this white line here, these lines. So these are the different rivers. So what we observe is that the track between Satluj and Yamuna, the track which constitutes the fertile lands of Indo-Gangetic alluvial plain, which contributes the maximum to the food security of the nation, the sediments that were deposited by dominantly fluvial agencies are present, but the river system that deposited them is nowhere to be seen. So we concentrated our studies on this very tract to find out where and what are the evidences for the presence of Saraswati river system. And when we started, we looked at some of the old maps, because nowadays every bit of land has been taken care of. So we thought that maybe let's look at the time when there was wilderness somewhere around. And what we found was that in the 17th century maps, whether it was the Dutch map, you are seeing this is the Indus river system, and this is another river system that has been marked parallel to the Indus. Similarly, the British period map, it also shows. Then the Italian map, this also shows this line is the Indus one, this one, and then again the Mughal period map. All these maps of 17th century show the presence of a drainage. And if we see this as a satellite imagery, the Indus river system, the Yamuna river system, and in between is a barren patch. Our knowledge about the existence of this river system goes back to our scriptures. Rig says in its very well read and celebrated couplet, Ambi Tame, Nadi Tame, Devi Tame, Saraswati. Best of mothers, best of rivers, best of goddesses, Saraswati, give us wisdom and knowledge. Again, in another verse, it says that this river has copious volume of water and flows vigorously. In another, it shows that again it talks about the nature of flow of this river, mighty currents. These are some of the points that I am raising, and later on when I discuss the scientific studies that we have done, I will be again referring back to these. In Yajurveda, it says that river was constituted by 5 tributaries, and then later on it again divided into 5. A fact that has been worked out by ISRO, that in the Pakistan part, Saraswati river does show a channelization, which is quite unique, because before a river meets the sea, we do have deltaic foots and all that, but in between, rivers usually do not give out branches. Then Atharvaved, again talking about the inputs of this river system in sustaining the agriculture. Manusmriti talks about a place called Brahmavarta, again talking about the Saraswati. Mahabharata, and it is very beautifully mentioned, Saraswati river is the mother of Vedas. So if we can find out Saraswati river, if we can date its paleochannels, perhaps we are trying to repay back our debt to this civilization, to take it back to its place of glory. And then another point that is written in Mahabharata, and which is very unique, that Saraswati river joins the sea with huge velocity. This is a very unique thing, because majority of the rivers, when they join the oceans, it's a near zero elevational process. The velocity of the river is negligible. The amount of dip is of the order of 1 or 2 degrees. And in that context, this line joins the sea with huge velocity is of significance. And then we have another one which shows the entire course of the river. Again in Vaman Puran, the river is mentioned. And the importance here is that the Rishi who is mentioned, Rishi Markandeya, though these rishis roamed throughout the country, they had hermitage sites throughout the country, but when we talk of Rishi Markandeya, his most important place, as we know now, is near Shahabad, and Shahabad is near Kurukshetra. So we can assume with a fair degree of confidence that yes, Saraswati river used to pass close through Kurukshetra. And the identification of the Rigvedic rivers is the single most important way of establishing the geography of the early Vedic civilization. As Dr. Narayan was mentioning, we have an Adi Stuti Sukta of Rigveda, which contains a geographically ordered list of rivers. And if we see that list, it says Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, then Satluj, Ravi, Chenab, Jhelum, Beas, Indus. And the most significant part is this is in the 10th book of the Rig Veda, which is considered to be of later Vedic period, meaning thereby that the Saraswati river was flowing during that time as well. When we talk about a river system, when we talk about a civilization, we have to turn to archaeology for evidences of its presence. And in Haryana, we have got numerous sites which point towards the existence of an ancient river system. We have Adi Badri in Yamunanagar. In Kurukshetra, in and around Kurukshetra, we have Bhagwanpura, Daulatpur, Mirzapur. Near Narwana, we have Balu. Then we have, and Kalayat as well. Then we have at Fatehbad, Jind and Hisar districts. And if we plot them, what we see, the green dots that we are seeing, that they all line up along the course of the river that we are about to see. And when these archaeological sites were plotted along the present day drainages, what we observed was that there was a concentration of these sites along the channel of the Saraswati river. This picture from the internet shows the sphere of influence of the Indus civilization, as has been mentioned. But I, as a geologist, see it as the sphere of influence of water. Thousands and thousands cubic kilometers of water flowing down for thousands of years. Have we lost all that water to the ocean? Or still we can hope to get thousands of liters down below in deeper unexplored aquifers? Coming down to the scientific evidences, the paleo channel signatures on satellite images. Now, this graphic shows, this I have taken from a book, Saraswati River by K.S. Waldia, wherein he has tried to explain the paper by Yashpal and others, wherein the paleo channel, is there a pointer? Okay. So this is one of the channels that had been identified on the satellite image, and what is shown is that the present day Satluj is going straight, and at some point of time it was coming down. The Saraswati river was also coming down. Markanda, Ghaggar, they were all joining near Shatrana to make the huge river flow. And when we see the satellite images, we find numerous evidences of paleo drainage. And all these paleo drainage, whether these are near Narwana, whether Kaithal, Kurukshetra, or for that matter Samana in Punjab and Haryana, we see a lot of them, giving rise to the possibility that yes, an ancient river system existed. And when we plot the archaeological sites, the third one, if you see, when we plot the archaeological sites, these archaeological sites fall very close to these paleo channels. And this is how we visualize the blue line that you are seeing, the Saraswati channel meeting the Ghaggar river and making the huge Saraswati. Here, the most significant find, or the most significant issue that is being discussed is that how come a river originating in Shivaliks be called as a major river? Because quite a few scientific studies have shown that the Ghaggar-Hakras river system is the Saraswati system. And research carried out at Kurukshetra University has shown that Ghaggar is not a river of the Shivalik origin as it appears today here. At some point of time, Ashni River, Giri River, Tons River, which originate in the glaciated portions of the Himalaya, their channels were joining the Ghaggar and their water was flowing through Ghaggar. And regarding the reasons for its disappearance, probably what is mentioned is the tectonic movements during the Quaternary times, 1.8 to present, resulted in major drainage readjustments. To a geologist, tectonics is something understandable, but to a non-geologist, tectonics appears to be a magical word, that wherever something is to be explained, just put the word tectonic and you are free. What it means, tectonic, what it means is, in this context, what it means is that Himalayas are basically active mountain system. They are still rising, and the Indian plate is continuously moving towards north. And this constant movement over the past 14 million years or more, when India collided with Eurasia, these movements are continuing. And these movements have resulted in the generation of mountain fronts, in the generation of fault systems, and all these activities put together result in drainage readjustments, wherein the old channel of the river system, it gets dry and the water starts flowing in a newer channel. To further explain this point, we have this satellite imagery. This is the celebrated satellite imagery for geologists. This shows the Yamuna tear fault. Now what you are seeing is the frontal Shivalik hills near Paonta Sahib, and at some point of time both these hill ranges were together. Later on the hills breached and Yamuna started flowing through this. Now the question is, what was happening to the waters of the Yamuna river before this frontal hill breached? Where were they flowing? If we see just towards this end, what we find is that we have two rivers, Bata River and Markanda River. Both these rivers flow in entirely opposite directions. This is not a very big area, and the landmass that is here, it has risen. Whereas when fellow geologists conducted studies, they found that the sediments all along this path, they show that water used to move in this direction. So probably before the breaching of the frontal Shivalik hills, through which Yamuna is now flowing, the waters of Yamuna river were flowing through the Bata into the Markanda and further down. My search for Saraswati river got a fillip in 2008 when ONGC appointed me as their co-consultant for Haryana region in their corporate social responsibility project. The project was named ONGC Project Saraswati, and we as a team of geologists from university, from groundwater department, Rajasthan, and scientists from ONGC visited the western Rajasthan twice for about a fortnight. And this what you are seeing down here, this is the top portion of a developed well, and this is in Jaisalmer district, and this well, the water that was being pumped out from this well was of the order of 76,000 liters of water per day. And though the TDS values were slightly higher, so they were mixing it with fresh water and then supplying this water as the municipal water supply. And we were searching for paleo channels in this sort of terrain. And we went to Munabao, that's the last station, railway station on Indian side before the train enters Pakistan. We got this type of things at many places. This appears to be a normal photograph showing an old dilapidated well. But here, the most significant part is that a hand pump has been installed. And those of you who know the science of hand pumps will agree with me that hand pumps are installed where the water table is shallow. And if you see the wilderness all around, there is no question of water table being shallow. Had this water table been shallow, it would have been a fertile place here. So what it means is that this well has been dug on a paleo channel, and we got numerous of these wells lined in a particular fashion. And in our search, we went to just near the Hussaini well and all those areas just near the border, and finally we reached Tanot. And Tanot is a very interesting story. We came to know that during 1971 war, numerous shells fell in the temple premises of Tanot, and none of them exploded. So if you happen to visit Tanot, you could see those live shells. They have just kept it. That is the blessing of the goddess Tanot Rao there. And while we are still debating, we are still deliberating whether Saraswati river exists or not, where it is existing, our neighbor between Fort Abbas and Delaware is utilizing the water of this river system for quite some time now. They have about thousands cubic kilometers of water that is available there. Then coming down to my own state, Haryana, we started looking for the signatures of the presence of the Saraswati river. And we decided that, okay, we will take two considerations in mind: if we have some hermitage sites, if we have some archaeological sites, or the cities that have developed over some buried earlier habitations. And towards that end, Kalayat was one of the places. It is near Nirvana, and it's an archaeological mound. The general elevation of Kalayat is 9 meters above the ground surface. And in Kalayat, we have got two temples. One is of Kapil Muni. He is the famous rishi of Sankhya Indian philosophy, and the other is the Chavangiri Kund of Chavan Rishi. This brick temple that we are seeing, this is a protected ASI monument, one of its kind in this part of the country. And that way what we are seeing is, this is the Kapil Muni temple. And these temples had a pond, a sacred pond termed Sarovar. So what happened, that during the rituals that they carry out each year, pond is cleaned, people come and bathe in these ponds, water started oozing out. Water coming out is not a big deal. It happens at many places. We were called to find out what it is. Initially we were reluctant to go, But when we studied the sediment samples, when we studied the water quality, we were amazed. Kalayat lies in a brackish water zone where fresh water is not available even up to a depth of 300 meters. In that scenario, sweet water was oozing out, number one. Number second, then we collected the sediment samples from that place, and when we studied those sediment samples, we got the ground evidence. That's the first one in Haryana and perhaps in the region where we got the ground evidence of the presence of paleo channel of a mighty Himalayan river. I would like to share this photograph. This photograph is a photomicrograph of the heavy minerals. Heavy minerals in geology are those that have got a specific gravity of 2.89. Water has a specific gravity 1. And here I would like to take your attention to the pointed corners that you are seeing. This one, this one, this one, the top one. And here also you are seeing these pointed corners. There were n number of sediments like this. Now, this made us think that how can it happen? When we studied their mineralogy, we were still amazed. Why? The mineralogy of these grains was of those minerals that develop in ultra high pressure environment, an environment wherein the pressures are of the order of 60 to 80 gigapascals. And that sort of environment in the present context exists wherein we have plate margins. And these minerals, what we got, these minerals have been reported from the Indus-Sangpo suture zone. So, the presence of these minerals at Kalayat told us that yes, some trans-Himalayan river was flowing through Kalayat. Number one. Number two, the normal process of transportation of through a fluvial system is by traction and rolling on the riverbed. Whatever the sediments are, they are either moved by traction, rolling, and this process ensures that during the first 100 kilometers of their fluvial transport, majority of the corners are broken off and the mineral grain becomes subangular to sub-rounded in shape. Here, 300 plus kilometers crow flight distance from the Indus-Sangpo suture zone, we are getting these angular fragments. And this indicates that these sediments, for the major part of their transport from the Indus-Sangpo suture zone to Kalayat, have traveled as suspension. And if we have to carry such heavy particles, having a specific gravity around 3, water specific gravity 1, if we have to make these particles travel as suspension, then we have to have highly turbulent agitated waters. And turbulence in water is linked with the volume of water and its velocity. So, the evidence was that a huge river which roared and which moved with great velocity, and in Rig Veda it is also written that the peaks of newly upheaved mountains used to float in the Saraswati as lotus stems. So, whatsoever was written in Rig Veda, we could very comfortably apply it here. So, we got our research on Saraswati got a fillip that yes, what we are doing, what we are thinking, what we are getting is on the lines that prove somewhere that yes, a mega paleo river used to flow near Kalayat. And then, as if the divinity wanted to express itself, the goddess wanted to express itself, we got a buried riverbed. This riverbed near Kurukshetra, there is a place called Bhor Seda. It's an archaeological site. What we got was 9 meters below the surface, we got pure sands, these pure white sands. And as we moved up, we got the entire geological succession, which showed that what happens when a perennial river system changes into a rain-fed river system. When it was a perennial river system, that time the input of clean sand grains was dominant. And as it changed into rain-fed river system, muds increased. And as you can see in the entire succession, right from this place up, the thickness of the darker color beds, thickness of the muddy beds increases. And we tried in our Saraswati research, the biggest impediment is that we do not have funds. So we couldn't go in for drilling, but working with people, working with rural folk, what we have understood in geology is that if you want to learn, you have to talk to people. So we talked with the local public there, and they told us that similar sand body they are getting 2 kilometers across. So the possibility that a river having a width of 2 kilometers flowing just near Kurukshetra is a mesmerizing scenario that might have existed when this river system was flowing in its full youthful stage. And then what we decided was that let's date these sediments. Let's work out when this river system started changing itself. And the date that we got was 12,000 years. Around 12,000 years, this river system changed its nature. To this, I would like to mention one thing here, because this is quite relevant. Majority of the international researchers have claimed that the civilizations that are there, they are nowhere linked to the Saraswati river system. To all those people, my humble submission is it necessary for a river system to be glaciated to be a perennial river system? Can't we have river systems which are fed on rains? Do not we have the Nile river system? It is in a setup where equatorial setup where there are rainfall is quite copious. But then if we see the past environmental setup during the period from 12th century or the 10th, not 12th century, about 12,000 years to about 6,000 years, 7,000 years, it was a wet period. There was huge amount of rainfall. Moving ahead, this what we see is a close-up. Perfect pure white sands with no doubt that these are of fluvial nature. You send a small boy, he will say, Nadi ki mitti hai. There is no doubt, no geologist is required, no grown-up is required, even a child can tell. And then in 2015, at Yamunanagar, Mughal Wali. What we got was something amazing. Beneath the fields, beneath the agricultural fields, we got the evidence of the presence of a river system. We talked with the local people around, and this photograph, this gentleman is the sarpanch of that village where this digging was going on, and the most unique part there was, which resulted in a lot of media coverage and all that, that we got water at a depth of 8 feet. And that water was sustainable water. It's not that it was a perched something, water table or something. For quite some distance they dug and they could get water which stayed there. They took out buckets and buckets of that water just to be sure that they didn't hit perched water lines. And this gentleman just went down. I asked him, पानी कितना नीचे है? उन्होंने कहा सर 6 फुट का मैं हूँ, मैं खड़ा हो जाता हूँ, देख लो आप बाकी कितना है. So what we got was 8 feet, and when the media reported 8 feet, it was a difficult scenario for people to understand. And the media also got a beating from their head offices, that you have just reported 8 feet, आपने छाप भी दिया, आपने वहाँ जाके नापा कितना है कितना नहीं है. And as it is, the media transferred the entire thing on me. कि साहब आपने 8 फीट बोला, वहाँ 8 फीट है, ये मुझे कैसे पता चलेगा? And I had to be blunt. I said, just try to see how tall you are. Please go and stand there and see what remains above your head. So we collected this part of the research we did from funds that INTACH gave. We collected the sediment samples and recorded our observations, and we got a lot of media attention. And I am happy to share that if you see NDTV, they aired this, they telecast this program in their prime time, and in this INTACH has been duly acknowledged. The research project given by INTACH has been duly acknowledged, and if anybody wants to see it, the entire program is available on YouTube. You can just search for A.R. Chaudhri. That's the only video I have uploaded till date. So you will find this video, and lots and lots of things would be quite clear. And while this gentleman was interviewing me, he just said, remarked that these lines that you are seeing, यहाँ पे लाइनें हैं, तो मैं उनको वो लाइनें दिखा रहा था कि ये एक सेडिमेंट्री स्ट्रक्चर है. तो ही जस्ट शॉट बैक कि ये तो मुझे लगता है कि कुदाल चली थी, कुदाल के चलने से ये लाइनें पड़ गई. So I showed him this thing. I said, now look closely. These are not the lines that any human can generate. These are normal sedimentary structures that develop as a consequence of channel deposition. And a close-up wherein we see the coarser sand-sized particles and granule-sized particles just interlayered one above the other. And there is a huge world of information in these beds. They tell us about the water velocity. They tell us about the environment that was there, what type of rainfall was there, huge amount of information. And then at places we could get these things, with what we call as current beddings. And in between, if you observe a river system, or if you observe a river channel, there are some depressions, and in these depressions the coarser clastics, they just accumulate. We are seeing this in a section, and here we are seeing at numerous places those coarser clastics that we are seeing there. And there was no doubt that these are fluvial sediments. And here we are seeing the sharp contact, indicating again a change of depositional environment, in the sense that that is how the flow of the river changed. Earlier it was depositing something like this, and then the coarser clastics came. And in geology we try to correlate these events by the different tectonic events, because a sudden influx of the coarser clastics is indicative of either a change in the precipitation pattern or a change in the tectonic regime. And here we see what we call as cross beddings. And these are the granular zones that develop, and these granular zones over a period of time become the zone for aquifers. So the entire thing we are seeing here, and this, the above one, the curved thing that we are seeing here, this shows how the sediments are deposited layer after layer as water moves. And you will realize that the angle of depth above and below is different. Above it is sharper, level of inclination is sharper, and lower down it is much gentler. This is typical current bedding. This photograph has been taken from the bridge on Som River, and as you are all well aware that bridges are constructed wherein the channel width is minimum. So at this point the channel width is of the order of 400 to 500 meters. But if you see beyond, what we observe is that the channel width is more than a kilometer, and again the other side we see the channel width is of the order of 2 to 3 kilometers. This is the example of what happened during the Quaternary. Such wide river channels and their character based on rain doesn't fit in well. So during Quaternary, due to the tectonic changes, perennial rivers became ephemeral streams. They became seasonal streams. Otherwise, how come a mountain, which is a hill which is 900 meters high, give rise to a river valley which is more than 2 kilometers wide? Simply indicates that at some point of time huge amount of water was flowing through this channel, and due to the tectonic processes this became a rain-fed river. During the time frame that is from March, when April I think, when the funds came to us, until date, we have worked quite a lot on this system, but still there are lots and lots of jobs to be done before we can say with a greater degree of confidence that yes, we have fulfilled our dream, we have fulfilled our mandate. And towards that end, identification of the Saraswati river paleo channel in the Saraswati drainage basin, that's a mammoth task. And the preparation of subsurface maps, because on the surface we might not be able to decipher anything. The entire land, either it has been built up or it's below the agricultural fields. On a satellite imagery also, It's very hard, it's very hard in cultivated areas, in canal fed areas to identify a paleo channel. So if we are able to prepare a subsurface map and get a litholog out of it, and then piece those things together to get the paleo flow channel or the paleo channel of this river system, and then the sediments that we take out by coring, they are analyzed for their sources, and to top it all, date these sediments so that we can say with a fair degree of confidence, yes, this is where the harbinger of our civilization flew. This is where the river flowed in times of its active nature. And towards this end, my request to INTACH is that continued support from INTACH in terms of money and time are required if this study is to reach its logical end. I understand that all of you are scholars on Saraswati River. Whatever I had to share with you, I have shared. Now, I pass this discussion on to you. Thank you.